So the $1,000,000 question, are you going to buy the Orbea Rise or the Amflow PL Carbon?
Definitely, I would buy the...
Absolutely, it would be.
Easy question. I'm going for this.
Riders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes, and you've asked for it, so we're doing it. It's a massive shootout between the Amflow PL Carbon and the Orbea Rise. Apples to apples, these are very comparable bikes. Geometry, price, weight, like componentry, probably the two most popular super light, full-powered e-bikes on the market. And we've got our test riders, Pablo, g'day mate, and Sam. Thanks riders for your time. Sam is a new mechanic at Sam's Bikes, absolute gun of a rider, and Pablo is a glorified bike geek, probably geeks on it more than me, so we're in good hands here. And we've all been riding the bikes for the last couple of weeks, and I've designed like a test we've got 8 different categories that we're all going to talk about, and then we're going to score. So if the Amflow wins, it gets 1. If the Rise wins, it gets 1. And if they're even, they get half a point each. And at the end, we're going to tally it up. We're going to have a winner. And obviously, the most important thing when you're testing an e-bike, the control tires. So massive shout out to Schwalbe, because we've been rocking the Albert Gravities, both bikes, same tires, same tire pressure for me at least, and in that new radial construction. So riders, let's first of all have a look at the bikes, and then we'll start the questions. So the Amflow PL Carbon is rolling on 29 wheels, or is mullet compatible. We've got 160, 150, DJI Avinox motor, 120 newtons of torque, 1,000 watts of peak power, full carbon frame. You can get a 600 watt or an 800 watt hour battery, weight coming in from 19.2 kilos, available in 4 sizes, and cost starting from 6,500. We've been testing the top spec in a large, and that's with the 800 watt hour battery, obviously with the Albert Gravity tires, no pedals. The weight of this exact bike is coming in at 21.26 kilos. Then we have the Orbea Rise LT, which is rolling on 29ers. You got 160, 150 of travel, Shimano EPA 01 motor with 85 newtons of torque, and with that RS tune, 400 watts of peak power. You can get carbon or aluminium models. You've got battery options of a 420 watt hour, a 620 watt hour, and you can also get a range extender. Weight coming in from a very impressive 16.2 kilos, available in 4 sizes, and the cost is starting from 5,300 euros. Now, the bike we've been testing is actually a medium, which suits these guys a bit better and me not as much, but I like the size. We'll get onto that. And I went onto the Orbea website and the Myo. This exact bike has 430 watt hour battery, a 210 watt hour range extender, obviously the Schwalbe tires, and the weight comes in at 20.6 kilos, and the cost of this bike would be 11,218 euros. And I want to also put it out there and say, we are testing fine wines here. These are both brilliant bikes. And what we're trying to do and analyze is work out what's the best bike for you and your riding. That's why we've got different riders here. And first off, we're going to talk appearance and integration. And Sam, take it away.
Well, for me personally, I like sharp lines, and obviously I don't like too much sticking out on the bike. So for appearance solely, I'm going to go for the Orbea, just the sharp lines I like. But it's pretty hard because the Amflow, the system integration it's so hard to beat. So clean, so tidy. You got nothing really sticking out. So yeah, I'm still going to have to go with the Orbea just because I like the sharp lines myself. But system integration, Amflow.
Okay. What about you, Pablo?
Pretty similar. I love the Orbea, but I like the Amflow too. Looking wise,
yeah.
Integration, there's no comparison. The Amflow is amazing. We have the small remotes, super good. The display is amazing. So the Rise, the remote, the small remote, maybe the concept is good, but it's so bulky. It's not that intuitive.
Yeah.
You know, you have to look at the remote to change mode, and has no display. I think they need just at least a little display.
Yeah. So which one? Which one?
I will go for the Amflow for sure.
Okay, so we're even Steven, so it's up to me. Appearance-wise, I think they're both beautiful bikes, what you'd expect to see in 2025, an e-bike. Good integration, everything, very clean. I am a sucker for the raw carbon. I love it. Actually, at Eurobike, Amflow did have the raw carbon, which I was testing. So I'm going to say appearance-wise, they're both pretty good. Maybe I prefer like the lines of the Rise a little bit more. But then when we're talking about integration, because it is an e-bike, the Amflow integration is way better. Like you've got the display on the down tube, you've got wireless remotes, you've got a great charging port. The whole system is so well thought about. And for me, the Shimano remote here is a massive fail. And the fact that the Rise don't have a display, I would much prefer to have a small display here and a much smaller remote. Like in 2019, when I had my YT Decoy, the remote on the YT Decoy was way better than this remote. This is ergonomically terrible. You have to lift your thumb up over to get to it, and it just doesn't look great. So I'm going to go appearance on the Amflow. Now we're going on to the most important, ride quality, and we've been riding it in North Madrid, like pretty hardcore trails. Got a bit of everything. Sam, take it away.
Thank you. Yes, sweet. So we've been riding the trails here, and the trails here aren't very smooth, not very flowy. They're a bit more janky and technical, so it was a good challenge for riding both of these bikes. I definitely have my preferred winner here, just because my riding style gets along better with the 4-bar linkage system. So for me, the Amflow is the winner. The Rise was a good bike. Just didn't like the tracking of it too much. I just felt like the rear wheel was a long way behind me, and I like to play around in the small corners and things like that. So for me, the Amflow was a lot more active and just more fun to ride in general. So for me, that's where my point goes.
Fair enough.
Same, both are amazing bikes. I first rode the Rise a couple of days. First day was so that I felt the bike a little bit twitchy, but next day I set the suspension up a little bit better and was more comfortable. And I had to say this is a pretty good bike. Maybe I will shine it up. If I could buy this bike, I would shine it up to a large. Yeah. Because it's so playful, but maybe a little bit twitchy.
And that's saying something. Sizing up for you, because you normally ride a medium.
Yeah. I'm a medium guy. Yep. I'm a medium guy, always, yeah. With the Amflow, I was at home from the get-go. First lap, I was ripping. It's not that usual. Nice. So I like both, but I would say I like a little bit better the Amflow because I feel more comfy.
Okay, so the Amflow, Sam and Pablo. Now, my turn. So I've been riding the Amflow for the last couple of months, and I'm going to say like the first week I had it, I found it quite difficult to set up and get my baseline tune. That's because it did come stock with one volume spacer, and I found it like sat up a bit too much in the travel, and like in the chatter, it just got really nervous really quickly. And I'm 85 kilos. I'm kind of the average rider out there. I kind of should be riding with a spacer in there. Anyway, I took it out. Sam and I did a fair bit of tweaking with it. I ended up putting a coil on it, and I found the bike rode so much better for my style of riding. With the Rise, I got on it straight away, and I didn't feel I needed much base tuning. I'm going to say out of the box ride quality for a trail bike, it's even for me. I think they're both good trail bikes, but I also think they sit back from a trail duro bike. I think if you're looking at the spectrum of an enduro bike and then a trail bike, some trail bikes come closer to an enduro bike. These definitely sit closer to that edge. They're definitely pure trail bikes. Now, Sam said he wanted to discuss some things about this because it is quite a technical. It's the most important part when buying a bike is the ride quality. So, what did you want to add in, Sam?
Yeah, to that point, these are both great bikes. We're not saying that. Well, Pablo and I certainly aren't saying that the Rise is a terrible bike to ride. It's just that they are very different, and I totally agree with the point that you made, Sam, about the Orbea being a bit easier to set up out of the box and a bit more intuitive for tuning the suspension in that sense. The Amflow, we did do a lot of playing, and we just about made it a different bike, you know, with the amount of things we put onto it and changed around it. And it rode like a different bike. Both of these setups were great. We got the chance to ride it in both mullet and dual 29er.
That's a good point.
They both rode fantastic. For me personally, setup in the mullet was a lot more fun. Again, with that smaller rear end. That's my personal preference. But yeah, we had to play around with like the suspension, the air tokens in it to get that bottom out support. For me, I actually found a little bit of the opposite with the air shock. I found that through the roughest stuff, it was just sitting a bit too far into the travel. So I ended up running like a super high air pressure in the rear.
Yeah, maybe you needed the volume spacer.
Yeah.
Like, because this is the biggest misconception of riding, going off rider weight. Sam is like probably 10 kilos lighter than me, or maybe 15. And then when I got on his bike, I couldn't ride it. Like the bike, it was so stiff. It's because he's putting way more force into the bike. And so like, you know, suspension setup is so precise on your riding style, not just your weight.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, exactly as well, like if you're looking for a bike you can just jump on and set up the suspension, like I think we'd all agree that the Rise is so easy in that sense. You do have to put a little bit more work into the Amflow, but it pays off. Like it really does ride well once you have put in that energy and the time.
Perfect. On to climbing. Take it away, Sam.
Cool, yeah. Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot to be said with this one, to be perfectly honest. The Rise is a great bike. Shimano have done a good system, but I mean, the DJI system just blows it out of the water. For me, I ride an e-bike so I can get to the top fast and rally down, you know. The DJI, you can rally all the way up and all the way down. You're just riding the whole time, you know. You're not sitting on a bike and waiting to get to the top to ride. You can just get on it and ride hard. There's a really cool climb close by here. It's kind of like a loose fire brake, so it's got loose stones and stuff everywhere. And chuck it in that boost mode, and you feel like a rally car driver, man. It's cool. It is cool.
It's definitely changed the way you go uphill.
Certainly, certainly. I mean, yeah, there's pros and cons to that, of course. I mean, you know, you get those hikers on the track that are like, yeah, e-bikers. I mean, that's what you're going to get on this, maybe. I don't know. I was definitely spitting out some rocks and having a good time, and I had this biggest, silliest grin on my face, but yeah, for me, I'm sorry, Orbea, but the Shimano system, it just can't compare. The DJI just smokes it for me.
All right, Pablo, on to you, sir.
Yeah, it's not much to say. You know, I like tech climbing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go that road. The Shimano motor is powerful. It's pretty smooth. I think maybe it has a problem. It's like flats out. It has a good punch.
Yep.
At the beginning of the curve. It's torquey, but flats out and has almost no run. Again. Overrun. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
No overrun.
There's no overrun. So sometimes you need that punch to clear some gap you don't have.
Yeah.
That power. And the Amflow is like having a 450 engine on a bike.
Yeah. What?
That is
throttle wide open.
But it's not just powerful, it's super smooth.
Yeah. But what you're saying about the torque and the peak power and the overrun is really interesting, because Orbea have kind of gone backwards against what the trend is going at the moment. So Pablo's riding a Bosch SX, which has 55 newtons of torque and 600 watts of peak power if you get the cadence up.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Rise has 85 newtons of torque. So it has got that torque, which really does help you turn the pedals over. I kind of think of torque as like a spotter at the gym. You know, like if you're doing a bench press, they just keep the weight moving, so they keep the cranks moving.
Yeah.
But you need to put the power in yourself, because they've limited it to 400 watts of peak power. And to give you an idea, the Shimano EPA 01 is 600.
Yep.
So they're limited at about 15-20%. So that's what you're noticing there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so which one are you choosing?
No, which is the Amflow is for sure.
For me,
there's no choice. For
me, the Amflow, without a doubt. Like, both climb really well. Good geometry for climbing. Both bikes put you in a good spot. You know, 400 watts of peak power, 1,000 watts of peak power. It's pretty simple. And also, like, the Amflow has like 42 points of like data reading in the Hall sensor, I think it's called, and the controllable manner of the motor on how it cruels. So you can climb something like this, and you can have cadence at like 10 RPM and just cruel up something, and playing with your body weight and moving around to keep traction. It's a very impressive system. Like on the Bosch Race, you can't do that. The Bosch Race is like a lot of power, but it's not as controllable. So definitely the Amflow wins the best climbing. Motor and e-bike system in a whole. Sam, what do you think?
Again, this is a pretty clear winner for me. I got to spend a couple of days riding this Orbea, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. Rode all my local stuff, the things I usually ride for my lunchtime break, or you know, when I go and shred with my mates. It just doesn't compare to the Amflow, unfortunately. The Amflow is just very intuitive, very easy to ride. You get on and you don't have to think like, oh, I have to pedal like this, or I have to, you know, I have to adjust my riding style to suit the system. The system just fits pretty flawlessly, I think, with just standard riding. Whereas I feel like with the Shimano, going up some steeper stuff, I had to really adjust my pedaling style and figure out like, okay, my line, where am I going? How am I gonna, you know, how am I gonna navigate this? No problem on the Amflow. Again, with the power and the motor input, the motor support, it's just hard to beat, man. So hard to beat.
Agreed. What about you, Pablo?
Yeah, definitely. The Shimano motor is a very reliable motor. It's a good motor. The Avinox motor is in a league of its own. You can compare. You have the 4 modes. You have the Eco. The Eco has a pretty good support. Amazing for super long rides. The Auto one is amazing for you can get a lot of kilometers.
Yep.
With that one. And then you have trail.
It's
Mind blowing.
powerful. Yeah,
The trail one is mind blowing. Super smooth, but mind blowing. And then you have turbo. I haven't used turbo that much, and not both.
And then boost.
And that boost mode is
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's
So
crazy.
Amflow for you as well. Avinox.
Yeah, the Avinox one.
Okay, I'm going to say, without a doubt, the DJI Avinox motor is the best e-bike system right now on the market. Like, I've been blown away. I was a part of, you know, the private testing at the start, and what they've managed to do in generation 1 is outrageously good. The power, the support, the delivery, the whole system is just mind-blowing. You know, Shimano is probably in their 4th or 5th generation. It's really good. I think it probably was a mistake for Orbea to limit the power. I think, you know, if we want to go out, as me as a rider, I want to go out for that power hour. I want 600 watts of peak power. I want to smash up, I want to smash down, I want to get as many downhills as possible. Then when you put your range extender in, it limits it for another 20% or thereabouts. So I think that's a really big mistake from Orbea in that system. So definitely it goes to the Amflow. And now onto the sound of the motor and system of each bike.
All right, so the noise, the sound, definitely a significant factor with both of these bikes. The Amflow, there was just about no noise, no sound. Going up, nice and quiet. You can have a conversation with your friends. You're not getting that whirring motor working noise too much. It was really nice and quiet. And then going down, all you can hear is the pitter-patter of the tires and the birds chirping in the trees and the tires shropping off the corners, you know, all the good stuff. The Orbea, that is a different story, unfortunately. That had a lot of noisy, plasticky feedback. I went riding with a friend of mine, and you know, you want to be focused on the trail, enjoying what you're doing. All I could hear was my friend saying, "Bro, your bike's so noisy, what's going on?" That unfortunately ruined the ride a little bit for me, but yeah.
What do you think, Pablo?
The Amflow, well, both going uphill, they're the usual whining from the motor doesn't bother at all. Going down is pretty different. The Amflow pretty much is silent, a little bit.
Yeah.
If there is too rough, you can hear maybe a little bit, but with the rise from the first downhill, you can hear the motor rattles. Maybe it's I don't know, the frame amplified the motor or whatever. It sounds a lot.
Yeah. So Amflow for you.
Yeah.
And for me, going uphill, I think both systems are comparable. Like, I think they're not super quiet or not super loud. They're kind of right in the middle there. Definitely not annoying either. On the downhill, the Amflow, I don't think it has a rattle. It might have a very small rattle on G-outs, but it's totally acceptable, and I don't hear anything out in the trails. And then on the Rise, I needed like earplugs, really. Like it's the first time I've tested, what's this, the Grip X dampener, which surprised me. They put the Grip X on a high, high top end bike. It should be the X2, the high end dampener. So this dampener, I'm not sure it needs a service, but it makes a lot of like a sucking noise. Then with the frame, you have some type of cable rattle or something's going on in the frame. And then in the motor, you've got the rattle as well. So you've got all those three things going on at the same time. And it's really quite off-putting when you're going downhill. It did not make for an enjoyable experience for me riding that. But I will say that I don't think it's always the EPA 01, because on the propane I'm riding at the moment, the Shresh, same motor, it comes down to the acoustics of the frame and how it's designed and how it amplifies that rattle. This amplifies it a lot. And on the propane, I can't hear the rattle. And also, I think Shimano are making like small tweaks on those systems constantly and trying to improve it. So for me, without a doubt, the Amflow for noise going up and down. Battery options, range, and versatility. And just put it out there. So the Orbea's got the 420 watt hour battery, they've got the 630, and they've got the 210. And the Amflow has the 600 watt and the 800 watt, but no range extender. So Sam, take it away.
Did a little bit of riding throughout my lunch breaks and just try to get, just try and drain the battery as much as I can. They're pretty similar. Like the power input from both the motors to the battery size. If you're running turbo and boost, obviously you're getting up there a bit faster. It does drain the battery a bit quicker, but the range is pretty similar, I feel like, on both of these bikes. And for my lunch break, both of them are perfect. So honestly, with that sort of thing in mind, I think I'm gonna still have to give it to Amflow, but it is close to splitting that point for sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Pablo, the geek.
The geek,
He's definitely looked at this more than both of them. Both Sam and I.
I've ridden the Orbea without the standard in purpose. I've been riding super light bikes a little bit. I want to compare how they are performing, and it's completely average. It's much more the same as any other. The Boss SX.
Yeah,
it's pretty similar, or even the Specialized super light bikes. And you can manage the range with using the mode pretty good, And then the Amflow, we got a lot of power. So if we compare the power we are using and the battery we have, both are pretty equal. I would say equal.
Okay, so I kind of think that it is hard to compare them because we've got 400 watts of peak power here and 1,000 watts of peak power, or 850. So, there's a lot of power difference. I was very impressed with the range on the Rise. I haven't always been that impressed with Shimano systems on range, but I think the technology they've used, or the application or the algorithm of the RS Tune, uses the battery quite well, very well. I was impressed with the range on the Rise. Very, very impressed with the 420 watt hour battery. I really love how they allow the end user to choose what battery you have. So you got a 420, a 630, and the range extender. So you can really design that bike around you. I think on the range, I'm gonna go equal. I think they're both very good systems for range. They're definitely not the best and not the worst. So I'm gonna say equal. And I'm also gonna say, I'd really love to see Amflow add a 400 watt hour battery and a 250 watt hour range extender. I just think the Avinox motor is 2.5 kilos. The Shimano is 2.75. So the DJI could definitely bring in really super light systems and allow the bike companies to make more more super lights, and just spec the bikes in a different way for the end user. So now we're going on to build quality and how it is for a mechanic to work on these bikes. Sam is a professional bike mechanic. He works in a bike shop full time. He also works at Sam's Bikes a fair bit of the time because I am a bit precious. I like to change everything over. So you know both of these bikes pretty well. So Pablo and I are not going to get involved. We're not mechanics. So take it away. No pressure. How are these bikes made and how are they to work on?
Yeah, no pressure. Thanks for that. Both of these bikes are built really well. Like there's no one that's a lot better than the other. I'm a mechanic who likes simplicity. I don't want to have to, get other people involved to hold certain things to put certain parts together. So for me, if a bike is easy to work on, the bolt comes out, you put the bolt straight back in. I don't want to have to work too hard to align things. So the Amflow is really good for this. Nice and simple to work on. There's nothing too technical. Nothing's too integrated. It's all very smooth, very easy to work on. When we did first build it though, we did have to pull all the bolts out, give it a bit more grease, chuck it all back together. But since then it's been smooth sailing. Must note that I'm a huge fan that they haven't integrated the head stem with the cable routing. That's a massive positive for me.
Yep.
That's always a bit of a nightmare, having to, get some of the boys in to hold extra cables and things to try and align everything. So yeah, very happy with that. That's awesome. Orbea, again, great build quality, really, really great build quality. I'm just not a huge fan of the integrated headset system that they have. It's a bit tricky to work on. It's a bit fiddly. There's a lot of moving pieces. And two, well, Sam and I ride with our brakes the same way around. Pablo here rides different.
Yeah,
He rides the wrong way, let's be honest.
Well,
the weird one.
yeah. So, to do that with the integrated headset system is a little bit tricky. You always have to, take the stem off, move the spacers around, flip the hoses around. It can be a little bit tricky if the cables the hoses aren't long enough. So there was a little bit of fiddling to do with the Orbea. Again, too, with the suspension system, it's relatively easy to work on. There's just, a few extra bolts to do up and undo and to preload the bearing systems that they have there. So that can be a little bit tricky sometimes. Also, too, with the rear pivot around the axle, for me, it's easy enough to work on. It's not a problem to work on. But as a bike system, it's not my favorite. I prefer that the linkage is separate to the axle. That's just, for me, it's just another.
Didn't you have the axle fall out when you were riding?
Yes, maybe.
But didn't when Sam was working on the bike, you tried to take the back axle out, the rear axle, and it was like really tight, over torqued.
Yeah.
In my opinion and your opinion, we were like, shit, that's really over torqued. And then you went out riding it for the first time, and you called me and said the back wheel fell out.
Yeah, there was a bit of excitement. Yeah, so when we took the axle out, like Sam said, it was super tight. I don't know how it got to be so tight like that. Again, this is not our bike, so we were borrowing it from a friend. And yeah, so I took the axle out, greased it up, put it back in. I don't torque spec my axles, but I did it up tight, like not to strip the thread, but I made sure it was snug. I don't like my axles coming out. Sure enough, went for a ride on my lunch break, and as I come around the corner, I felt the back end just wasn't quite where it should have been. Looked down and the wheel had slipped a little bit. The axle didn't come all the way out. Again, I don't know if I can pinpoint that to one exact thing that did that, but this bike, this Rise does have a lot of rear wheel flex, a rear triangle flex, sorry. So some people call that compliance. For me, I like a really stiff bike. To me, that's a bit of a noodly feeling, a bit vague, and maybe that flex is something that you take into account when buying a bike. Because for me, I like my bikes rigid. I really like to be able to push my bikes hard. This one, I was obviously pushing hard, and then I had the axle walk out on me. Yeah, that might not have been.
Can I just add something in there? I didn't notice the back end flexing, but also I think that's like Sam's a pro rider. Like he rides super fast, and I think you're only going to start feeling those things when you start really pushing.
Yeah.
And I actually felt in long banked corners. I actually felt the Rise to be stiffer.
Okay.
I felt like that's what I felt for in long banked corners, but I didn't feel much difference between the stiffness of the frames there.
Yeah, for me the stiffness of the frames was pretty equal. Like this doesn't feel a lot softer to me. They are pretty equal, but that's just one thing that I did notice with this bike, and that's what I was just trying to relate. Maybe that's why the axle had moved on us. I don't know exactly, but we've tightened it back up since.
So what do you reckon?
Honestly, I'm going to give it to the Amflow just because of the simplicity of it. It's nice and easy to work on. This has just got a little bit more to it, a little bit more complicated. Still easy to work on.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, now onto value. We've been testing the top spec Amflow and a reasonably top spec Rise. So the cost of this bike is $10,000, and the cost of the Rise, I think, I went on the MyO, which I absolutely love. You know, you can really customize. So I went onto the MyO, onto the Orbea website and customized exactly what we have here, apart from the Maven brakes. And I think I put XTRs on it because they're, you know, top spec brakes. And I think it came out 11,200 euros or 11,400 euros, around that. I think it was 11,200 with the 430 or 11,400 with the 630. I definitely recommend getting the 630. So what do you think value-wise? I mean, it's pretty...
I mean, if you go by all the points we've just given out, Amflow wins, of course, of course. But the reason why the Amflow wins is like, they are fairly similar bikes.
Sure.
This one just gives you a lot more. Like when riding uphill, when riding every day, it just gives more. Suspension systems, fairly similar. So
almost the same.
Like you said, bro, it is apples for apples. But again, yeah, it's going to go to the Amflow just purely because of that system. It is awesome.
Pablo?
Yeah, I cannot disagree with that.
Amflow's the value.
Both, yeah. Both are amazing bikes. Both have pretty good quality. You can say, well, I like these brakes better or whatever, but
yep.
At the end, this gives you a bit cheaper.
Yep.
So I will go with the Amflow.
Yep. For me, I'm going to say the Amflow is better value for sure. Apples for apples. We've got carbon bars, carbon frames, carbon wheels, you know, smaller battery here, but if you put the range extender in, more or less the same. So we're looking at like around 1,200 cheaper for the Amflow for apples. I love how Orbea allow you to spec the bike. I love that you can get your bike painted. I love you can spec the tires, the handlebars, because that's going to save me a fair bit of money in the long run, because I do like specing my bikes. I'd love to see Amflow have at least one more model in the lineup, because they have two. Most brands have 3 or 4. I'd like to see maybe like 2 more models, maybe with you know, RockShox or, you know, different componentries, because Sam, you like RockShox. There's a lot of people that are now pushing towards RockShox for good reason. So I'd like to see that, but definitely the value goes to the Amflow. So now on to not all gravy, which is the things we don't like about both bikes. And also, riders, this is not going to be a score. This is going to be, you know, just what our thoughts about it. So Sam, what didn't you like about the Amflow and the Rise?
Right. One thing in particular for me was just ease of setup. You know, finding that sweet spot. Most bikes nowadays are pretty simple to jump on, find that air pressure that you want, find that balance point, you're good to go. Definitely a lot easier to do that on the Orbea. Found it a little bit tricky to do on the Amflow, like we mentioned earlier. It just took a bit more fiddling, took a bit more, you know, toing and throwing with air volume spaces. We tried a different shock in there as well, just to, you know, figure out what can and can't work. So yeah, that was something that I don't like to spend too much time doing that sort of thing. I prefer to just get on and ride. So that was one thing that was not all gravy for me. Yeah, and for the Rise, the part that wasn't all gravy for me was that noise, the chattery, plasticky sound that we were getting from the bike. I went riding with a buddy while I was riding this thing, and that was the only comment that he could say, you know, while we were riding. Usually going, yo, yeah, sick, yo. This guy was going, what's that noise? So, you know, that was definitely not all gravy for me. How about you?
Right, starting with the Amflow, I had a chance to take on a small ride when you get you got the bike, and with the in stock form, I didn't like the bars and stem, and so the stock tires are not that good. The rise, the remote, I can't stand the remote
And no display.
Yeah, no display.
All right.
It's not enough.
All right, for me, what I didn't like about the Amflow is didn't like the bars, didn't like the stock tires, and I like to do a bit of exercise with the motor, and I found the motor, I found like it hard to get my heart rate high and to manage my heart rate. I'd love to, like with their automatic mode, I'd love to see like incremental increases, kind of like micro tune or fine tune that Shimano and Specialized have. I like to see it like almost pair it with your heart rate and try and help you, because it's got so much power. I found it hard to get a workout where the Rise was probably too much of a workout. And with the Rise, I hate the remote, and I think it's really quite not clever not to put a display on your bike as stock, because these electric mountain bikes, we are going out in the mountains, and you know, if you run out of battery in the middle of nowhere, it can be dangerous. So I'd say that I didn't like that. Okay, riders, I hope you're still with us. And now down to the score. Well, it looks like the Amflow has absolutely thrashed the Orbea. And so we've got 19.5 compared to 2.5. I didn't think it would be that different. Like, honestly, like these bikes, this is my first time riding a Rise. And I really enjoyed it. It's a really good bike. I expected to like it more. And I probably didn't expect to like the Amflow as much. You know, these guys have just made this bike. You know, so in the closing statements, just give us like, would you buy one of these and why? Or, you know, Sam, you're still a young gun. Are you looking at getting an e-bike, or is that, so would you buy one?
I would definitely buy an e-bike now. My arm has been twisted and my mind changed. To be honest, even though the scores were so dramatically different, I would still buy either of these bikes. I would definitely spend a bit more time hunting out some of the sounds in that Rise. But yeah, man, I certainly didn't expect to enjoy the Amflow as much as I did. To be honest, I actually expected to get on it and totally not like it. So that was a super pleasant surprise to be able to jump on that bike and rip it and really enjoy it. But like I said, I'd buy either of these bikes. They are both really great bikes.
What about you, Pablo?
We agree. We didn't expect it to like the Amflow that much. I don't know why, because maybe
I mean,
it's a first iteration of the
It's a brand new motor system, brand new frame.
Everything new.
You don't expect them to get it that right out of the box.
That's right.
And it's kind of scary where it's going to go, because we have fast fashion. I kind of think now we have fast technology. Like we're getting all the action cameras coming out, you know, updating them each year, like the iPhones are getting updated each year. So I wonder how often, or are they going to stick to the standard, you know, Orbea, Specialized, you know, the Trek, they kind of do like every 3 or 4 years. That's kind of the cycle. So I wonder what's going to happen, but they definitely knocked it out of the park. And riders, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated it. And you riders, thank you so much for your time also. And put in any comments you have below. You know, I answer them, Pablo answers them, Sam can answer them. Like, we really are there to help you riders, and without a doubt, these are fine wines. Both of these bikes are sensational. I'd be happy to ride either one of these bikes. We're kind of really like dissecting and really finding out what's better for us as a rider. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.